Yay! I think I got it this time, and thanks to Karen for helping me out. I've been doing a monologue for the last 5 minutes to no one, to myself. Apparently there's several different buttons I have to press in order to go live, and I skipped one of those. I skipped one of those buttons. So thanks, Karen, for notifying me, because I would have done a whole live for an hour and have it not recorded and no one watching. So thank you for that. How's my audio, by the way? Please do let me know. Hey! Okay, great. I've got a couple of comments now. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so where was I? I was talking about my favorite number knitting book, Number Knitting, published by Virginia Woods Bellamy in 1952. She did a correspondence course for a number of years, teaching her garter stitch method, then got a patent, and then published her book in 1952, which, as far as we know, is a compilation of her correspondence course. And what I've been trying to do lately is to, hey Bob, I've been trying to kind of retrace Virginia's steps, as far as in the introduction of the book. She talks about when she was really developing her garter stitch ideas. She was in a sanatorium. I think she had TB, and she was recovering, and she had a lot of downtime. And in some of those years, she had published some early patterns through some magazines such as Women's Home Companion and McCall's Needlework, but some of those even predated number knitting. So when she was an early knitter, she was raising her kids in the 30s. She didn't publish number knitting until at least 20 years later, and her kids were grown. And so I've been trying to piece together that history, and so I wanted to share with you some of what I found out this last week. Okay, so I've been pretty regularly, I do Google searches for number knitting and Virginia Woods Bellamy. Like, there's probably not going to be like new information suddenly appearing on the web unless I put it there, honestly. But I still do it, and I found some interesting things this week. Get out my magazines so you can see them. I made some purchases. Camera 2. All right, let's take a look at what I've got. So I found an issue of Women's Home Companion from this is August 1934, and I bought it. Incidentally, I bought 3 magazines last week, and I found some on Amazon, and then I thought, oh, that's great. It was $128 is what she was asking, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna pay that much. That's a lot. So I offered $50. And then as soon as I did that, I was like, you know, I should check Abe Books. And I went over on Abe Books, and it was $25. And then as soon as I found that out, the lady on eBay came back and said, your offer has been accepted. And I was like, oh man. So anyway, double check if you're going to get old books, maybe check a couple different sources first to try to get a good deal, because I overpaid, but whatever. Let's see if I can find the bookmark that I put in here. Oh, there's my notes. Okay, so this was, there was a piece in here called Puffbunny Wardrobe, and of course now I have to look through and page through till I find it, because my bookmark fell out. So Puffbunny Wardrobe was a series of clothing, children's clothing that she designed in 1934, and you could send away for a pamphlet or order them, I think, like in sets, and I believe it was like 30 cents or something. It was a 36-page booklet, and over the course of 1934 in Women's Home Companion, she put out multiple articles about these cute little garments, and So if you have all the women's home companions from 1934, you could see pictures of all of them. And of course, we're getting close. I feel it. I feel it. Can't believe my bookmark fell out. Anyway, while I look for this, so there was a Piecework article. Piecework magazine put out an article in, I believe it was April 2017. And let me show you that real quick. I can't show you the article because it's like it's a paid for. But if you look at this is the website that has it, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But anyway, this is what the front of the magazine looks like. But it has a really interesting article where it shows the articles. A couple of other pretty passionate number knitting researchers, Susan Strawn and Ann Bratton, they had put together an article with all the different pictures from the Puffbunny Wardrobe, the whole collection. And there it is. There's my bookmark. It fell out of view. Okay, so they had put together an article showcasing all of these different images and from all 4 issues of the magazine. And it was, I think they even managed to also interview Virginia's daughter, Jane. And honestly, before I reread it a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know that there was a Jane. I had no idea. I knew about Rufus Bellamy, but he died, I think, in 2014. I didn't know about Jane. And so that was kind of a surprise to me. And I think, pretty sure that Rufus and Jane are the children modeling these outfits. And so these are Virginia's kids. And the article in here is talking about the different outfits. There's Hug Bunny and Snow Bunny and Top Bunny, and this is just the ones from the August issue. But if you get that magazine from Piecework 2017, they have all the pictures of, like, it goes from like fall all the way to winter, and summer it's got these little Snow Bunny outfits for every season of the year, and some of them are made in wool and some are cotton, and there's a lot of ribbing and garter stitch used, and so they're like stretchable and flexible and all that. And so I bring that up to say that the work that Virginia was doing pre-number knitting was very much utilitarian in mind. Because this was during the Depression, and so she was trying to find a way to clothe her children using less materials and also have a garment that they could wear for like a longer period of time without just outgrowing it. And if you look at these pictures, you can see there's ribbing, and there's like these little strap things and suspenders, and so it could grow with the kids pretty well. And so that's what she was doing nearly 20 years before she did anything number knitting related. Okay, so let's fast forward. I don't know when her correspondence course came into existence. I have no idea. I could probably do some research based on the timeline in the introduction of number knitting, which I should do. Okay, so next we have summer 1944. And this is sort of like the next iteration in her knitting publishing. And here it is. This is called, there's just one pattern that I could find in here, and it's called Discovery Number Knitting. And it doesn't have the name of this pattern, but this pattern is in the actual book. And in the number knitting book, this is called Road and Wall Design. And there's a little article about it, and then you flip over to page 71, so just 1 or 2 pages later, and the article continues. Oh, here it is. The interesting road and wall design in Greek effect is worked around the center block in a series of binding off rows and picking up on other rows until the entire cover is finished. Knitters will be thrilled with this new discovery in knitting by Mrs. Virginia Woods Bellamy. Complete directions for this new number knitting in leaflet number 141 and B. See leaflet notes, page 64. Okay, so then we're going to flip back to page 64. And I know it's a little hard. I don't know how to zoom yet with my new setup, other than to like lift the book up close to the camera, and I don't know if it would focus. But here it is, leaflet number 141 NB. Directions for making the baby garments shown on page 10. So let's take a look at that real quick. Baby garments shown on page 10. If you notice, none of these are garter stitch, they're not number knitting, and Virginia is not credited with any of these. No designer is credited with these. Okay, so instructions to make the baby garments shown on page 10 and the baby blanket in number knitting shown on page 68. So what was really interesting to me about that is at this point in her knitting career, so this is 1944, this road and wall design was like lumped in with another set of baby things and sold as a leaflet. I thought that was interesting because going forward, all the other times that she's sold number knitting patterns through McCall's, they're standalone number knitting. It's like Virginia's stuff. It's not just like Virginia and all this other random baby stuff. It's just Virginia's stuff. And so I'm thinking at this point in like the 1944, she hadn't quite progressed enough to get standalone items. Maybe she didn't have enough patterns. I don't know. Hey, Stephanie. All right, so now we're moving on, 1946. And so Virginia's patent was, I believe it was filed. Let me open it up real quick. I believe she filed the patent in 1946 and it was approved in 1948. Let me double check real quick. Number knitting patent. There it is. Number knitting patent. All right, let's show you all of that. Okay, so here it is. Oh, 45. So she filed her patent in April 16th, 1945, and it was approved January 27th, 1948. And so this is we're kind of like in the same time frame. So she did the road and wall design in 44, and then she did the patent. She filed for the patent in, so she did the road and wall design in 44, filed for the patent in 45, and now we move into 1946, and it starts to get interesting. So here is somehow a couple of years ago, somebody sent me photographs of a copy of this. I have no idea where I got them. I wish I did, but I don't. But anyway, the pictures that I have, I think I showed you them last week, they didn't include all of the number knitting things from the book. They included most of them, but not all of them. But now that I have the whole book, I can show you all of them. So let's take a look at this. So we've got, we're on this is page 37. And she's got a full page spread now. And it's not just like a little sidebar, it's huge. And there's 5 designs. There is this one called 5-Star Admiral. And what's interesting is there's instructions over here. If your military man is a different branch, you can simply change the colors to make it for a different branch. You can make it a 5-Star General in brown and tan. You can make it, the 5-Star Admiral is made in navy blue and gray. And she has a few different color recommendations. And this would be pretty easy to chart. Maybe I'll do that sometime. Yeah, it's a pretty basic idea. Interestingly, this little star thing here, it is similar to the design that I believe it's called window star. Let me see. It's in the book. There it is. Let me show you this. So this is very similar to the design in this 1946 book. This just has the one star instead of 5 stars, but it's the exact same thing as far as the center star shape. This has got this is built more like a log cabin blanket, or like the 2 and 2 design but with the center star in the middle, as opposed to this 5-star blanket, which has got the 5 stars, but it's surrounded by mitered squares. In my opinion, I kind of feel like this window star blanket, the blue one, is more like kind of like a further development in the idea of combining a couple of different ideas, the log cabin with the stars. That's what I think. I think that's why it came later, but I could be totally wrong. I don't know. All right, so next up in here is we've got a pattern, and it's not, I don't even think it has a, here it's not given a title, but if you read through the article and go over to, I think, continued on page 81, so let's bookmark this. Let's see what it's called. Page 81. There we go. Here it is. The article continues here. The 5-star Admiral, and another one called Baby Afghan, which I'll show you in a minute. And then if you go down a few paragraphs, it says, while the heavy Afghan and dainty throw are made in suitable small sizes of squares, the large shawl at top of page is made in 3 very large squares. The center square of the 3 forms the graceful back of the shawl, with the dividing line in the square reaching from neck to point, and it is this dividing line that gives the lovely bias pull. The bias pull in divided squares is responsible for the adjustable fitting qualities of the smart jacket shown on page 54. Which is so handsome and so comfortable, made in knitting worsted. And so the one on 54 is the Hampton cardigan that we've been working on trying to recreate. All right, so let's finish reading here. As to the delectable 5-point scarf on page 37, let's go back to page 37 so you can see that again. Okay, here's the 5-pointed scarf. She says, it will be apparent at a glance that it is based on triangles. Again, large needles and baby wool are responsible for the light, fluffy effect of the scarf. The 3 dark triangles are in lavender, the 3 light in pink. Of course, the knitter has her choice of making any color combination or of making the scarf in a single color. And then it says, to obtain charts for making these designs in number knitting, please use the coupon on page 37, which is right here. And what's interesting is somewhere in this article, it mentions that thousands of people have expressed interest in these designs, which is amazing. So at some point in time, thousands of leaflets were printed and mailed out, and subsequently lost over the following decades, which is tragic. But anyway, I'm going to try to rechart this for us to make. I don't know, maybe that could be our next knit along. We need to plan our next knit along, by the way. So I'm gonna put that in my notes to cover today, to decide what we're gonna do for a knit along starting in April. Okay, so back on page 30, was it 37? Maybe it was 57. So we've covered these. There's 1, 2, and then Hampton Cardigan is 3. This is called, here it's just called Baby Blanket. But if you look at this in the book, it's actually called Mulberry Baby Blanket. So let me bring that up to show you. And that is on page, oh, that is on page 98. It's not this one. It starts on page 98 with the description, and then she actually has it in 2 different sizes. Let me zoom in on this so you can see. This is like a big blanket size, and then she has it in, so she's got it in 2 different colors, you know, as it goes around and around. And then she also has a smaller version that that you can just do with like a single color, and that's what this is. And I would imagine this picture here and the picture in the magazine were probably the same blanket. And I don't know if any of you have like looked at the mulberry bush very much, but what's really interesting about it is that this whole blanket is knit in concentric, it's like they're mitered squares, but they're knit concentrically. And so you start here, and then you just like work around and around counterclockwise, which is really interesting. I keep saying this, I haven't seen any other designer use mitered squares concentrically. I've seen them with all the diagonals going in one direction or maybe zigzag, but I haven't ever seen anyone else do it concentrically, and I think that is just spectacular that she came up with that. And the other pattern I wanted to mention in here is this one. Oh, 2. Okay, so this one, I know it's a little hard to see, but this shawl is on, it's actually in the book too, and it's called Butterfly Shawl. And that is on page 91. So let's go there, page 91. And she did 2 different versions. One of them, I think one of them, it sort of looks like it's bordered in like a different color, or like maybe bordered in like a gold tinsel or something. One is black and one is lavender. And it does say the photos are courtesy of McCall's Needlework magazine, and that's, you know, that's this magazine I've got in front of me. I think the main difference is that the lavender one over here has got, it is 3 stitches to the inch, and this one is 2.5 stitches to the inch. Yeah, so they're pretty close. Anyway, so those are the five patterns in here, and it's interesting to me that she kind of went through this progression where she published patterns on her own, and they kind of like lumped her in with others first, and then, you know, then she really kind of got her own footing and her own promotion, like on multiple pages in these magazines. Now, there are a number of other number knitting pamphlets that were produced through McCall's magazine. I'm still trying to track them down. I know there was at least 2. There might have been more. I'm not really sure, but I found something very cool last week, and I was so excited when I found it. It is called somethingunderthebed.com. So there's this woman, let me show you her homepage. So like 20 years ago, this woman started cataloging, I think it was like doll magazines or something. 2003, she began hunting for a library for information on a doll crafting magazine. And she has her whole story about how the Library of Congress wasn't, she thought the Library of Congress like had everything and was documenting all this stuff, and it turns out they weren't. And so she, on her own initiative, started this bibliography of a whole bunch of different kinds of crafting magazines. If you click on bibliographies, she's got leatherworking, origami, polymer clay, crochet, not a whole lot of knitting yet, quilting, and she apparently has turned out to be like the world resource on all this stuff. And she told me she gets calls all the time from universities around the world looking for information on magazines. And what's wild is I think she's got hard copies of all this stuff, like a warehouse full of old magazines. And she told me every day she will go in and add one item to her website. And she's been doing this for over 20 years. And she is actually listed as a source on Wikipedia now. Like when people are researching old craft magazines, they list her website as the source. And I just think that's wild. And even though I do pretty regularly, I do a search for Virginia Bellamy, Virginia Woods Bellamy, number knitting, all that combination. It wasn't until I did a search for McCall Needlework summer 1946 that I found her website. And on her website, there's a whole page all about McCall's needlework, and Virginia Woods Bellamy is listed in there 4 times. And so I didn't discover that until after I'd spent an untold amount of money on those three vintage magazines. But she's got copies of all that stuff, and like physical copies. And she said she would have to charge me to, go into her collection and scan it. It would be like $1 a page. And I was like, really? Like $1? Like honestly, I'll pay a lot more than $1. But anyway, she's an amazing resource, and she's here local. She's in Raleigh. And so I'm thinking I might want to go pay her a visit just to see her collection and just like be astounded, because she's doing a huge source for a huge service for knitters and for crafting historians and universities. And she's just doing it all on her own because she loves documenting stuff. So that's amazing. So I put in a request for several of the scans of several of the magazines listed on her website that mentioned Virginia Woods Bellamy, and so I'm excited to be getting those pretty soon. Yes, that's going to be great. And I'll put her link in the show notes as well. Okay, so let's talk about the 4 points hat. I think in the book it's called Belt and Hat of Straw Yarn, and I've mentioned this a couple of times. And hat number 1, way too small. This was knit according to the book's instructions. Hat number 2 fit better, but it's still not quite right. So I made a calculator, and now that I've got my computer where I can show you my screen, I thought how fun would it be to show you my calculator to see how it works, because I wanted to make the hat for so you can choose whatever size that you want and whatever gauge that you want. So let's take a look at that. All right. So here, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. I made like a sample head size, I guess this would be like 7 different sizes, but you can plug your numbers into the yellow fields. And so I think, let me see if I have my measuring tape here. There it is. I forgot. I measured my own head, but I forgot what my head measurement was. And it's not, the way that you measure for this hat isn't around, the circumference like a normal hat. No, I did it different. And assuming that people have generally the same proportion to their head, you measure from ear tip to ear tip. And so mine is Mine's like 12-ish. Yeah, it's about 12. That sounds about right. Okay, so if I have a 12-inch head, and my stitches are, if I do 4 stitches to the inch, I should cast on 68 stitches. And so like if you had a baby, let's say, or a toddler, and they have an 8-inch from ear tip to ear tip, oh, there we go. So if I have a 12-inch ear tip to ear tip, I've got 4 stitches to the inch, I would cast on 68 stitches. But like if you have a toddler, 8 stitches or 8-inch ear tip to ear tip, and you want to do maybe like 4.5 stitches to the inch, it will automatically calculate. And so you should calculate cast on 51 plus 13. No, 51 stitches and then work 13 ridges. And the way that these numbers work is that the number of stitches that you cast on will always be equal to 4 times the number of ridges. Or another way of saying it is the number of ridges, you multiply that by 4, and that's the number of stitches that you'd cast on. So I've tried to make the math work out, and I think for the most part it does. It might be, my rounding might be a little bit off. So I've been wanting to experiment with this because the first 2 I'm not super happy with. But let's see what my stitch gauge is here. I don't even know, because I cast on and I just like these needles and I like this yarn and it seemed like a good idea. I could guess maybe it's about 4 stitches to the inch. I don't even know what size head this is going to fit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 9. So this is 9 stitches to 2 inches. And so if I do my, I've got 9 stitches to 2 inches, and I cast on 60 stitches. So I haven't yet figured out a way to make it work backwards. I'm thinking this is going to fit like a toddler, maybe like a school-age kid. I don't know for sure, because I didn't use the calculator to cast on. I just guessed. But anyway, that's the idea, is that you can measure your head and then cast on the number of stitches and work the pattern. So we'll see it. I think I got 2 people who wanted to sign up and test. I never managed to get a test up on Yarn Pond. I started, but work overcame me. All right, so working on the 4 points hat, working on it. I'll probably have it done next week, and then I can show you what my my result will be. Hopefully it's bigger than the last ones. Let's talk about the copper cardigan. Copper cardigan. And I got kind of mixed feelings on this. Because, and I know part of that is my own fault, because I didn't do a gauge swatch. You know, I should, and it's my own fault. So I'm not quite sure. Let me get my measuring tape out again. And so the way that this works is that this is the body here. Oh wait, no. Here we go. All right. So this is the body. This is like the right front chest. This is the underarm gusset. I know it doesn't show up great, this brown yarn on this brown desk. Sorry. And then you've got the sleeves. And so these rows are knit on size 10 needles. These rows are knit on size 9. These are on 8. These are 6, 5, and 4. So the stitch count stays the same throughout. The gauge changes because you use different size needles. And as it is right now, this thing is 26.5 inches long. But let me show you the pattern, because this is where I'm a little oh, I was puzzled. I'm not puzzled anymore. I believe it's on page 215. 215. There we go. Let's take a look at this. So, copper cardigan. This thing is worked in rows. So you work row 1 and then you do row 2. Actually, no, you start here, you work row 1 and then row 2, and you're going back and forth. And then you pick up for row 6. So you start here and go back and forth like so. And I'm working on this section now. And what puzzled me, it says here, there's instructions to pick from left front shoulder. But the way that this sweater is worked, you work the right front, and then you work the right back, and then you work the left front, and then you work the left back, and then the left front. So this instruction here to pick from left front shoulder, well, you can't do that because it hasn't been knit yet. So you notice that instruction pertains to row 11 here. It pertains to row 11. And you're supposed to pick from row 16, but you can't because row 16 hasn't been knit yet. And so I found that mistake. This bit of text really should pertain to this section. So I need to fix that in the pattern. But also what's interesting about this is that you knit this body first, and then after you're done, you go back and you add even more length. You knit these border things here on the ends and on the cuffs. And then there's what she calls a lap over in front. And so that's going to make this thing a lot bigger. And so if this is already 26.5 inches, if I add another row here, and it's going to be knit on size 5 needles, and so that's about 3.5 inches. So that means that this arm length in its entirety, when I'm done with it, is going to be like, I can't even show it on the whole screen, it's so big. It's going to be like 30 inches. That's big for me. I'm only 5'4". I'm not a big person. I'm probably an average height person, an average height woman in America. I'm 5'4". So I thought, what would happen if we took my favorite sweatshirt and measured that to see what it would be like. This is my work uniform, and I wear it basically every day because it's so comfortable. And so let's see how big this is. So I said with the arm length in total is going to be like 30 inches, right? So this, my favorite sweatshirt, it goes to 27.5. So that's reasonable. Okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. What it took me a while to figure out in the book is that extra length, which I thought it would like come to the tips of my fingers, and like that was just going to look just ridiculous. But then I was looking at the picture in the book, and I noticed something in the book. Where is it? It's very subtle. Here we go. You see that little point right there? To me, that looks like the cuff is going to be turned over. You see that? It's like it's turned over and folded back. And there are a few places in the book where she talks about, like, if the sleeves are straight, you just attach them with cuff links and, you know, it's fine. But she doesn't she doesn't mention that in this pattern anywhere about folding the cuff back or attaching cufflinks or anything. And so the only reason I caught that was because of that, the way that the model's left hand is positioned up there. You can kind of see it looks like it's folded back. So I'm thinking that's what it's going to be like. We'll see. Another thing I just noticed today is, so this is a cardigan, right? The copper cardigan. It's going to have buttons. She's got a number of cardigans in the book, and I've knit some of them. Even though I forgot that I knit them, I have knit more than one cardigan from her book. But what's interesting is all the ones I've knit before, she never discusses buttonholes. Like, there's just no mention of it. And so when you get to the point that you need buttonholes, like, well, what do? You just, like, I used one of those, I don't know what the technical term is, but like there's a type of button that's like kind of like elliptical, and it's got, instead of like a button with a shank, it's kind of like a bone or something, and you can kind of like feed it through, and it sits more horizontally on top of the fabric, as opposed to like a full round button that you'd actually have to push through a hole. So I've done that before, and I've also just tried using smaller buttons. But then, like at 5 o'clock today, I noticed she actually has instructions on buttonholes. And I tell you, I've never noticed that before, and I've been working on this since 2015. So let me show you the buttonholes. It's on the next page. Let me look it up. Buttonhole. There it is. So the next pattern is called Bodice Blouse with Cape Scarf, and this thing is wild. I'm going to do this one next. For the life of me, I can't figure this chart out. I'm just like, holy cow. That's going to be a wild ride. But anyway, so I'm back up here, and this thing has got buttonholes apparently, because it talks about them. It talks about them here. So let's look at that. Buttonholes. Where did they go? Here. Next, up right front of bodice in buttonhole border, leaving a buttonhole between units. Here's how you do it. By piqueing 3 stitches, casting on 3, and omitting to pique, pick by knit, the 3 lying under. Piqueing the next 3, turn corner, and continuing to pique the second 10 stitches of the divided square. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds very similar to a 1-row buttonhole. And I know that Elizabeth Zimmerman, she used a slightly different technique, because Elizabeth's technique, I believe, was you've got all your live stitches on the needle, and then you bind off a few, and then subsequently like cast on some stitches, and so the whole operation is accomplished in 1 row, starting with a row of live stitches. And this one is different, because instead of starting with a row of live stitches, you're starting with a bound off edge from a previous unit, and then you're selectively picking some, and then casting on some, and then selectively picking some more. I just thought it was interesting that in all the other cardigans that she's got in this book that have buttonholes, or should have buttonholes, she never mentions how to do it. And so I think that's one of the reasons it's so important to go through the whole book, because like there's these little nuggets that are just like scattered about, like gold nuggets, and you just never know when you're going to come across one. And so like as I'm going through the book, I'm filling in all the pieces of like missing information that I've been wondering about for years. And I keep thinking maybe I will have found everything. No, there's still more to find. There's still more to find in this book, Little Treasures. Anyway, so I'm feeling better about my copper cardigan now that I've measured it. I'm hoping it'll fit. I'm really hoping it'll fit. let me show you the yarn I'm going to use for it. So I've got the brown. I don't know if I showed you all this before. So I've got this brown, and then I've got this kind of wild, it's like a sequined copper tinsel. It's 100% polyester, but it's got tinsel, 2 strands of tinsel wrapped around, no, it's got 3 strands of copper tinsel with black, like lace weight polyester and iridescent sequins, which is kind of fun. Yeah, very, very 1950s. My granny would have loved that. She had a whole closet full of sequined dancing outfits, and this would have been right up her alley. All right, how are we doing on time? Oh, 6:52. Sorry for the late start, by the way. Thanks for your patience. All right. Oh, another bit of drama on this. So in the original book, Virginia calls for B or B plus baby weight yarn, and she calls for 10 ounces. No, 9 ounces. 10 ounces to be safe. And so I think I bought like 11 or 12 ounces of this yarn, and I should have known better. I should have known better, because it's not baby weight yarn. It's wool, and it's like a wool alpaca blend, and so it's got more loft, more like density than what Virginia was using. I'm not sure, because Virginia didn't mention if it was like 1 ply, 2 ply, 3 ply. Like there's no mention of that. Sometimes she says you should use a fine 2 ply yarn, but in this case she just says use B or B plus. Like, I don't know. And so this is like a DK weight yarn. I feel like maybe an Aran weight, maybe leaning a little bit more toward worsted. My understanding of like all the different weights of yarn years ago, I feel like it used to be better. Like when I just bought the big box store yarn, it comes in pretty clear weights. You've got like the baby weight yarn and, you know, the worsted weight yarn, and then you've got novelty yarns. And I feel like it's a lot more clearly delineated, or at least it was when I was using big box store yarn like as a primary source. But there's just so many variations now, and so I didn't buy enough yarn. I remember I've seen different indie dyers. They sometimes will offer sweater quantity amounts of yarn, and so you choose your base, and then you choose your colorway, and you order sweater quantity, which is apparently 6 skeins. And I think I've bought 6 skeins of the same color once in my life, once. And it should have been twice. And so anyway, I got 3 of these skeins of yarn, and then I quickly ran out. And so I called the yarn store, ordered more, and I just got my other 2 skeins in the mail. I thought surely 5 skeins will be enough. No, it's not. It's not going to be enough. I'm going to have to do another order. And so let me show you how I determined that. Like, why don't I just overdo it for once with my yarn purchases and order enough instead of having to scrounge around later? It's ridiculous. I should learn. Okay, so each one of these fronts and backs, it's got, I believe, 18 brown squares, or like the dark squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13. Oh, there's 14. There's 14 plus 6. So there's 20. Whoops. 20 here, 20 here, 20 here. Oh no, 21 because of the gusset. So there's going to be 82. But then when I go back to add these borders in, I believe there's 18. So it's a whole nother square. But you hold the brown yarn plus the tinsel yarn, and I think there's 18. There's 18. So there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, there's, oh, and then there's all these little top and bottom borders. So anyway, I'm probably gonna have to get more yarn again because I don't plan ahead. Oh well. Maybe when I order from that shop again, I'll have her throw in some good knitting needles so I don't have to have an emergency run to Walmart in Miami for knitting needles again. That was an adventure. All right, let's talk about the knit along. So y'all are doing or most of you are doing the knit along with the tropical leaf car throw. And I've been seeing some really great pictures in the Ravelry group about your progress, and I'm loving seeing the different kinds of yarns that you made. And so I just thought I would show you where I'm at with mine. I'm doing pretty good. I finished the body of it, and I think I showed you that last week. You know, I don't have to hold this up in front of the camera anymore. That's right. I got an overhead cam. And I can't zoom out, so, but I can kind of scoot it around the table. I've got two sections of border done. The original pattern calls for 8 ridges here, but I thought 16 looked better. It just looked more proportional to me. So I'm doing, no, 15. I'm doing 15 ridges here instead of just 8. And so I've got 2 whole strips done. I think I'm on my fourth or 5th ridge on the 3rd row, and then I need to do the 4th row here, and then fill in the corners with the divided squares. And interestingly, this is the same bordering technique that she used on the Lambs and Butterflies blanket. Let me show you that. Yeah, here it is. She did the same thing with the strips on the sides and then the mitered squares in the corner. Bub wants to know how heavy my blanket is. I don't have a scale in front of me, but if I had to guess, I'd say probably like 2 pounds, maybe? Maybe about 2 pounds. I'm not entirely sure. It feels probably 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds, something like that. Yeah. So there is one thing I've been thinking about, because on this bind off edge, it's just a bind off edge, which is great. But like if you ever want something a little bit fancier or just a little bit more variety, like I do, I'm thinking I might add something to this, like I did here. And it's a little hard to see because it's brown on brown. Maybe this will help. Hard to see. But it's, I'll do a sample for next time. Yes, I would say it definitely is more than 1 pound. This is a technique that my knitting mentor taught me, and it's called backwards crochet. And I think some people call it crab stitch. And I'll demonstrate it sometime. I don't have, how are we doing on time? I'll demonstrate it next time. But it's backwards crochet. You literally crochet backwards, and it's really interesting. And I'm thinking I might do some sort of a fun technique like that on the tropical leaf car throw. So I was out shopping. I think I was at Trader Joe's last week. And as I was walking back to my car, this woman was walking in, and she was wearing not 1 but 2 hand knits, a sweater and a scarf. And I stopped her and I said, "I love your scarf." And she said, "Oh, are you a knitter?" And I said, "Yes." And so we had this lovely chat, and it was some sort of like asymmetrical garter stitch scarf. It was cute. It was nice yarn. And what was really, really neat about it that caught my eye is that it used some sort of like a picot bind off. And I've never done a picot bind off, and I'm sure I could do it. It can't be that hard. I mean, I've knit really complicated stuff. I prefer not to. I prefer to knit simpler things, but like I could figure that out. So anyway, I'm thinking I might do like a picot bind off or like some sort of a picot stitch or something around the edge of my blanket just to give it a little bit more visual interest. Because that yarn, this edge yarn, it's a homespun wool, not spun by me, but like homespun by like, you know, the sheep farmer sends the wool to a local wool mill and they process it. So it's, you know, it's not like mass produced, you know, acrylic or whatever. It's very much, it's sheepy and it's got a lot of grit and structure. It's even, incidentally, it's even got some barnyard debris in it, like straw. Like I've kind of picked a lot of straw out of this yarn, but it's like, it's earthy and it's substantial and really it will hold up. Like if I do a chunky picot in that, it'll be like, yeah, you know, it'll be sturdy. Which I think would be neat because it's like, it's kind of off-white with, and it's pink, so it's very feminine in that regard, but it's also like, it's got body, and so it's like strong. And I don't know, I kind of identify with that. Picot bind off, oh, it does take more yarn. Well, I think I'm gonna have enough because I got another like 5 ounces. We'll see how rows like sides 3 and 4 go, and if I have enough, I'm just gonna pick back my bind off and like do a picot bind off. But I'm gonna finish the borders first before I attempt that. But I think this would really hold up, like have some nice, like it'd be kind of cool to just have some heft on that edge and just make it a little bit more interesting because the rest of the blanket is like, you know, it's very linear and it's, you know, it's solid colors. So just kind of mix it up a little bit. Yeah, so that's my knit along progress. As far as, oh, one last thing I wanted to show you before we work on choosing what our next knit along is going to be. Let me see if I can bring this up here without like making all of my cameras crash to the ground. Hide all my stuff in my desk. Okay, so last week I talked about how I needed to block that little lacy sweater thing that I was trying to make. I had 200 T-pins. Wasn't enough. So this is my blocking mat. Let's see if graceful Kelly. There we go. All right, so I've got this thing, and last week it was resisting me, and I haven't like steamed it or anything since I've pinned it on. I just pinned it, and I pinned it, and it seems like it's kind of like it's less resistant this week because it was straining before. So I need to get some more T-pins to like fix this edge, and I don't even know like what angle that's supposed to be. I haven't determined that yet, but I thought since y'all were helping me, you know, encouraging me to block it and steam it and giving me ideas and all that, I'd show this to you. It's kind of, it might even fit me at the end of the day. I mean, I have to wear something underneath it because it's like, it's super sheer, which is cool, but you know, modesty. Anyway, this is the progress I'm making on that. I need to get another box of T-pins. Ugh. Oh man, caught on myself. There we go. Awesome. Now I got a T-pin sticking out of my shirt. Fabulous. Anyway, that's the progress on that. Rishi B says, blocking wires would really help this project and way less T-pins. You know, I agree. I need to get myself some blocking wires, and I've thought about it multiple times, and I even once almost bought some at a yarn shop, and I didn't for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe I had to go home after grocery run or something. So blocking wires, I will get that instead of getting another hundreds of T-pins that, you know, I hardly ever use, but I will use blocking wires. That's a good idea. So regarding our next knit along, I'm thinking maybe like we'll start it in April. That way we've got time to plan instead of me just like springing it on you and, you know, you having to use like whatever your stash yarn is. We can plan it out, and we've got, I'm going to plan it out. Plan it out, Kelly. Plan. So we're going to plan it out, and then we can get the appropriate yarn and make sure we have the appropriate needles, and plan to start in April. So what are you guys thinking as far as like what you might want to do? Like, do you want to do a hat or a sweater? You're still working on blankets and like, or maybe a shawl, like a flat design. What do you think? I would love to know your thoughts on that. We've got, you know, I've got examples of lots of great stuff. I mean, I'm not opposed to knitting the same thing again because, you know, just because I've knit all this stuff. Oh, you can't really see it in the dark. We forgot to turn the light on. Oh well. Let's see. Nope, battery's dead. Anyway, I've got all my samples here, and I'm not opposed to knitting the same thing again. I don't mind at all. So if you have anything from the book that you'd like to knit, do tell. I'm open to suggestions. Maz says a shawl or a sweater. You know, one of the things the next one I was planning to do independent of a knit along, it is that crazy, let me show you. It's that, Karen says sweater. Let's see where it's called, let me show you. It's called bodice blouse with cape scarf. And it's wild. And let's see, and I don't know if I have enough yarn because, you know, Virginia didn't give us yardage, but I did get some yarn for it. It's got a wild chart. I don't understand the chart at all, even though I've redrawn it already. It's so I have the new chart that I can send out that hasn't been proofed, you know, because I haven't knit it. But it's got these two pieces. It's got this like sweater thing underneath, and then it's got these like scarfy things that somehow button together and like go over your arms. And I don't have any idea how it's supposed to work. I don't know. It's interesting because this is one of those patterns that's got multiple charts. So this is bodice blouse with cape scarf. You've got, I think this is just the sleeves. And then you've got the sweater part here. And so it's just, oh, and then this little section here is just the little scarfy things for the top. And so I have no idea how it works. But if you're interested, summer top is great. Shawl sounds like an easier project. Scary. You know, it is a little scary because it uses like 7 different sizes of needles. I'm thinking maybe what I'll do is I'll knit it first and I will report back and tell you, like, you know, rate it 1 to 10 on the scary factor, because it, be brave, be brave. Oh man. I know it's, it does look like a good challenge. And so one of the things that I like about these number knitting sweaters, because, you know, Bub's got some current concerns about fitting being an issue. And I hear ya. I get that, because if you look at most sweater patterns, the way that they're drafted in the book, like they're squares. And if you've got a hip, like if your hips and your waist and your bust is all like within a couple inches of each other, squares work awesome. But if you don't have that square shape and you've got more of curves, or like I met a knitter online once. She like modeled a sweater for me. Huge boobs, just enormous. Tiny little waist, tiny hips, big boobs. And I would imagine like that would be tough to fit because, you know, if you want to use an existing pattern, but then like draft it to fit your own figure, you're going to have to fudge some stuff. And so the thing with the number knitting that I think is really cool is that because all of the units are, well, not brown because my desk is brown. We'll do this one. There we go. So the units are all going to be knit on a crossway tension. And this isn't a great example because that's hard to see. We'll do the red one. You'll be able to see that pretty well. So you've got these, yeah, now you can see the stitch definition. You've got the mitered squares going at different directions. And that's what Virginia called all-way stretch. And that is the magic of number knit sweaters. Because of that, if you got a bigger bust, it's just going to expand a little bit. And if you've got a narrow waist, it just tucks in. Bigger hips, it's just going to expand a bit. And so this sweater, it will fit a whole lot of different body shapes and it will look good on them. And so the number knitted sweaters, they're just going to be a lot more forgiving fit-wise than like a traditional sweater that's just stockinette stitch. Because, you know, stockinette stitch, it tends to stretch in one direction and it doesn't have anything like pulling it another direction to like even out that that fit. And the garter stitch, it does. And so you know what we could do, let me show you this one. I know it's brown. Maybe I should get like a different colored like platform thing for my desk or something. Anyway, so this one's called Hampton vest, or Hampton shirt for men, I think. And it's the same front and back. And in the pictures in the book, it was on a man and it fit fine. And you know, men tend to have like a different bust to waist to hip ratio than women. Like women have bigger boobs, smaller waist, you know, generally, broadly speaking. You know, men are going to be more like cylinder shaped, right? But this is straight up and down as far as the garment. And what's cool about this is that when this rectangle gets put on a human being, it will stretch in all the appropriate places and it looks good. It looks really good and it fits. And so even if you have fitting issues, I wouldn't worry about it. Just, you know, try one of the number knitted sweaters and you'll love it. You really will love it. So we've got some people that are voting 7 sizes of needles. Yes, there's 7 sizes of needles. Let me show that again. There's 7 and it's on 6, 7, it only uses 6. 6, 7, 13, 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, it's wild. 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 13. Yes, so there's 6 sizes of needles, which is wild. Yeah, I haven't even wrapped my head around that yet. A lot of times what I've been doing is I'll color code these charts according to like what needle size is used, so I can better understand the just look at the color and match it up with, you know, the right size needle so that I understand like what in the world is going on. So for the knit along, what we could do is we could do a couple. I'm a fast knitter And I'm pretty experienced with number knitting. So to do like one project a month as a knit along is not a problem for me, in addition to like whatever else I'm knitting. And so maybe we could do like 2 knit alongs. We could do one that's like a sweater and one that's like a shawl, or something flat for maybe those that aren't quite feeling confident enough yet with the technique. What do you guys think about that? Having 2, and I could do them both, and we could, what do you think? Anyway, let me know what you think about that. As far as the sweater, I'm going to do the bodice blouse with cape scarf. That will be for sure one that I'm going to do. But why don't you all think about it? We've got a few weeks to plan, so you could leave a note in the comments and let me know. Maybe we could do this Hampton vest for somebody that wants to try a sweater, or we could do one of the shawls. I haven't done all the shawls in the book. That would be fun, and those are flat, so they're not really going to have fit issues. Anyway, just say which ones that you are interested in, and let me know, and we will take it from there, and maybe we can make the decision in the next week or so. Because I think if we decide by like the second Sunday in March and buy yarn right away, we could probably get the yarn in hand close to April. I think that would work out pretty well. The knit along, as how long will it last? I'm thinking, it seems to me that about 3 months seems to be a good approachable, like that's a good thing that you can, even like someone that's not a very fast knitter, like if they just work on that project for 3 months, like that's something that's attainable, because not everybody can knit a sweater in like just a couple of weeks. And so I think 3 months is a good thing. What do you think? 3 months? And over the course of the 3 months, we'll each do our project and we can report back. And I'll probably work on other things in the meantime and like mix things in. Bub wants to do the Hampton shirt, and so let me show you one other thing. This is the first. This is the first Hampton shirt. This is the man's shirt. And I had the other Hampton shirts, but now I can't find them. Anyway, there's several of them in the book, and this is the most basic one. Let me show you the other one in the book. Let's see. Hold on. Hampton shirt. I'm gonna. Okay, so this Hampton shirt is very basic, but it fits great. Hold on. Oh, there it is. Hold on. My computer stopped responding. Hampton shirt, man's sweater. What is the deal with this computer? There it is. Okay, so it's basically just a series of divided squares worked in a zigzag fashion. That's it. But it's good because it'll get you experience like picking up the stitches and working in different directions. And I think it's also got like ribbing along the hips, and it's got these little divided squares at the top. It's a great fitting basic sweater. But if you're feeling more adventuresome, there's also a couple that are adapted for women, and those use different needle sizes. The shoulder shaping is a little bit, well, it's got shoulder shaping. It's just the neckline is a little different. So if you're new to doing the garments, and like garments are intimidating, I probably would start with this one. This is a great sweater. So, and of course, if you join the knit along, I mean, here's the chart. It's like on the screen. But yeah, I'll totally send you the the new chart, and so that you've got one that's more, it's not more up to date, it's easier to read. I mean, it's the same information, it's just easier to read because I put it in my illustration format. So what do you think? Oh, Karen says that Hampton shirt I made was that $4 experiment. Yes, you bought yarn from the dollar store. I love that. I do, and it turned out good too. And oh, and Karen did something interesting with her Hampton shirt. She added, I think there were little in the sides here. She added little divided triangles. So like if you need a little bit more room in the belly, you just don't sew the side seam together all the way. And instead of seaming it right here, you just add a little divided triangle, and that gives you like an extra, probably 5 inches there and another 5 inches there, and so you can have a little bit more space. And so that's it's a great sweater. It's super adaptable. All right, so what do you guys think? We're gonna do, starting in April, we'll do the bodice boss with cape scarf if you're feeling adventuresome, and we'll do the Hampton shirt for men, even though it fits women great too. Do those ones sound good to you all? Those are the ones I'll be featuring like every week, every Sunday night, so that we can all show our progress and experiment. And I don't know, maybe when I do another one of these, maybe I'll learn something new that I didn't learn last time. Yeah, buy enough yarn. I know that. I learned that lesson last time. Okay, I'm excited too. Oh, you're adventuresome? Me too. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm going to need to contain my excitement because I'm usually a monogamous knitter, and lately I've been having so much fun with showing you my projects and talking through things I've been finding in the book, and just getting more involved with number knitting again. It's just like I have so many fun things I want to knit, and I think I've got like 4 things on the needles right now, which is 3 things that more than I normally have on the needles. So if you ever get, like, if you're usually a monogamous knitter and you like to just cast on things, you don't cast on things willy-nilly, but you like to finish your projects, I would, and then immediately start another one, because that's what I do. I finish the project, weave in the ends, and then cast on the next project, generally speaking. But like, if I get stuck on something and but I'm itching to start a new project, but I haven't planned, because I don't plan very well, I would get yourself like something really simple. Like, I have this blanket. I need to show it to you guys sometimes. I started it in like 2002. It's lace weight cotton slub yarn on size 1 needles, and each square, it's the baby blanket pattern from Number Knitting. It's just, I think each square is like 10 stitches wide by 10 ridges high, and each square is about an inch around, and there's over 1,000 of them, and I've been knitting on it for 20 years. So when I am like desperately needing something soothing to knit, I need it to, I don't need to plan anything. I don't need to think about anything. I just need to knit, and I need it to be productive. I'll bring that old blanket out that I've been knitting on since the early 2000s, and I'll do, I don't know, 40 little squares on it over the course of a couple of weeks, and I've got it out of my system, and then I can like gather my thoughts and like work on something else. But every once in a while, I'll bring that out, and I will show it to you next week. Thank you. I look so cute when I'm excited. That's oh. Oh, and I do get excited about number knitting. This is my favorite thing to do all week. And I do my computer stuff, my technical writing stuff all week, and that pays the bills. But this like feeds my soul, so I need both. All right, so it is, oh gosh, 7:26. We went late tonight. Oh, thanks for hanging around. So, all right, next week, I'm hoping I'm gonna have the tech issue worked out, and I'll have all the batteries charged, and all the lights will be on, and it will be better. But thanks for sticking around and bailing me out. And I can't wait to show you the progress on my projects for next week. And post your stuff in the Ravelry group and on Instagram. I'd love to see it. And I'm excited. I need to restrain myself from casting on the bodice buff with cape scarf because I've got a long road trip coming up next week, and I'm gonna, no joke, I'm gonna have like 9 solid hours of knitting. I'll knit until I can't see straight anymore. So I'm excited about that. All right, folks, this has been super fun. And so I will talk to you all again next Sunday. All right, thanks. Bye.